Welcome to Real Life and Real Estate. My name is Nikki Robbs. I'm your local real estate agent serving Tacoma, Puyallup, and beyond. And today on the podcast, we get to have a tough conversation, but a very real and honest conversation about divorcing and selling your home. Whalley Law is in Tacoma, and they have a team of family law lawyers. They've been just a blast to get to know and hear their heart around protecting your assets and getting you through to the other side. I think you're really going to like the perspective that Jeff Whalley has on divorce being an opportunity to rebirth. So tune in, because I think you're going to hear some surprises about divorcing and selling your home with Jeff Whalley from Whalley Law. All right. So the two topics we're going to try and cover, if we can get through both of them, is the complexities of selling while undergoing a divorce.
Okay.
Because from my perspective, I haven't had any clients in this situation, but it's so common, it's just a matter of time. So from my perspective, I want to be able to cover, is it better to sell first or divorce first? And then all the complexities that go with that. So we'll start with that topic. And then if we get time, then we'll go into protecting your assets when you're buying as two single people.
Yeah, well, so that's a absolutely loaded question.
I know, they're huge. They're both huge.
Because as anybody says, you give you the lawyer answer, which is the gray middle area, right?
Right.
Which is, well, it depends.
Yeah.
So generally speaking, most counties in Washington now actually issue a restraining order. Not the restraining order that people think of, which is like, don't go within a certain distance of somebody, but a restraining order for the property, the insurance, simply so parties don't, hey, I'm going through a divorce, I'm taking everything, or I'm selling everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of that generally is the real property. And with that restraining order, you'll need an agreement or court order to sell. The most difficult part we have, especially in this landscape, in this market, is interest rates have gone way up. And so we have two parties whose incomes support one household who now have to support two households. Mm-hmm. And generally, the only thing you can do with the real property is either refinance, but if you refinance to give, the other spouse their equity out of it, how does that one person now support a house payment that is usually double?
How can they afford it? It has gone from, your $1,200 mortgage, which is such a dream at this point.
Absolutely.
But some people locked that in a long time ago. They've got an $1,800 mortgage, and now we're looking at $4,000 mortgages.
Absolutely.
How can they do it?
Most people can't.
Yeah.
Most people can't, and people are being forced to sell if they cannot agree, right? Generally, I think the parties that understand and they're advised as to what their options are, and ultimately as an attorney, it's all about options, right?
Yeah.
I tell you what your options are, you decide what you think is the best fit. But the ones that actually get the right advice will learn, hey, look, we got to work together. Even though we may hate each other, we got to work together so it's a benefit for both of us.
Right.
Because simply just selling generally is not always the best option because of the fees included, and then they may not have enough equity in the home to actually make it worth it, to then get on the other side of it, and now you're paying rent. Well, what do you rent an apartment for? What do you rent a house for?
Yeah, $1,200, $1,600, $2,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you need a 3-bedroom, now you're looking at $2,500, $3,000, and you simply can't afford it. And so you have a house, you could pay $2,000 for a mortgage, or you pay $3,000 in rent.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't pencil out. And so that's really one of the largest hurdles we have to overcome, because the mentality is the old school mentality, which is everybody's used to 3% interest.
Yeah,
right?
we did.
And so I can afford that payment. Well, now they get sticker shock because they come out of it, you can't afford it anymore.
Yeah.
And so because you can't afford it, what do we do? And that is something that you simply, is a case by case. So you may ask, well, when can you sell? Well, generally, someone once told me both parties have to be ready. And just because, the petitioner, the person moving to have the divorce, is ready to get divorced, the other party might not be.
I hear that one, yeah.
And so when you're trying to deal with, a house, two people have two different thoughts, right? One person's ready to, I need to address this issue, and I need to move on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm okay selling it, or I'm okay staying with it, or I'm okay with them staying. And the other party's still reeling, saying, what am I doing? My whole life, if I saw it, is now gone.
Yeah.
And now I need to figure out not only the house, but how do I support myself and potentially my children?
Mm-hmm.
And so their whole world's turned upside down. And so they're not quite ready to sell the house or actually listen to the options, because emotionally, they haven't gotten through the first phase of the divorce, which is really acceptance, and then understanding what's my next step.
That must be so scary, especially as the receiver, right? Not the petitioner. What do you call that person?
Yeah, petitioner, yeah.
Okay. So for them to hear, my long-term partner, my partner in crime, my partner in life has decided to go a different way. And now not only does my future look different than I thought, but also like my house projects aren't going to get done. What's happening to the kids' sports? What's happening to the cars that I was working on? What's happening to all the things that I had planned to do? How long is there any range of time that we should expect deal with the emotions of it first and then move on?
It really depends.
Okay.
You find that, in Washington State, whether somebody has stepped out of their marriage with somebody else or gotten into a different relationship or done things that, just probably shouldn't have done, doesn't matter. Right? It's a no-fault state. And so while it's a no-fault state, it does matter in the sense of human emotion.
Mm-hmm.
You find that the party who's been cheated on or feels like they've been cheated has a larger emotional hurdle to overcome. Yeah. And it's no longer about the facts of how to divide the assets and then how to divide time, which is your parenting plan, right? Because all you're doing is dividing time with your children. It becomes a principle issue. Well, principle costs you a lot of money. Yeah. And it costs you a lot of time. And so, part of our job as a counselor is to counsel in the sense of showing people that they have to overcome those emotional hurdles and process those emotions, because it's unhealthy to go through the whole process with a heightened emotion, because you can't think clearly.
We can't make decisions when everything else is up here.
Yeah,
and it's just so distracting.
And so you need time, right? You can't finish a divorce, finalize a divorce quicker than 90 days in Washington, but usually it's going to take 6 months to a point where people get tired, right? They do. It's just exhaustion.
Probably for a good reason. I mean, by the time you're tired, that brings you closer to acceptance.
Correct. And so, when it comes to the children or comes to a house, really it's that time period to allow them to work through it and determine, how do I get on to the next step?
Yeah.
And the biggest fear that you run into generally is a spouse who has been a stay-at-home parent and they have catered their life around the spouse who is the earner, trying to understand, how am I going to get on my feet and live?
Very true.
Because they have no understanding of their financials. They don't know basically where they can earn money, and all their time is spent working in the house, which is probably the most important job you can have. But when you're faced with, now I have to pay my own bills, what do I do? Yeah. And that's a scary thought for a lot of people. And what you find, though, is people are a lot stronger than they think they are. And they don't understand it. But they can get on their feet and they can actually find a job and they'll be okay. Because people come out of the woodwork to help you. And, story after story after story of people who simply didn't have anything. They're afraid that everything's going to fall apart. Now they got to take care of their kids. They don't know how to do it. Now I got to support my kids. I don't know how to do it. Their spouse is not a very kind person. And while they're ordered to pay money to support them, they just don't do it. But you find they're able to make it work. And
you have the front row seat to watch that happen.
It's not always the best seat, right? And it's a lot of phone calls, a lot of hours, all hours of the night. But, what you find is the resilience in people. And people actually are a lot stronger than they think they are. And going through the divorce is probably one of the most difficult transitions in someone's life, because just like any relationship. You think of just with a friend. If you have a good friend who just stops talking to you or says something hurtful, it hurts you, right?
Yeah.
It bothers you.
Yeah.
You're irritated. Now imagine it's the person that you dreamed would always be there, and this is going to be, whether you're madly in love with them or you're not, it's your status quo.
Yeah.
Well, now your status quo is gone. And so what are the next steps? And I believe that divorce is one of the best opportunities to improve your life. Because
I have never heard that one before.
a lot of people
Bring it on.
Yeah, people don't see it that way.
Yeah.
But it's an opportunity to self-reflect and get healthy.
Oh, I love
right?
that. Yeah.
Because your whole life's just been thrown up in the air. Well, start with yourself. What do I need to do myself to be the best version of me possible? How can I be the best father or parent, right? How can I be the best friend? And what areas do I need to work on? And I mean, people go into court all the time. The person's an alcoholic, they use drugs, they got mental health issues, they got anger issues. I believe that about 75% of those are all false, right?
Yeah.
People just want leverage. They want leverage. I mean, we have in our state civil protection orders that there's a threshold, preponderance of the evidence, but depending on what county you go into, it's almost like there's a rubber stamp. If you say I'm scared, they're going to stamp it and say granted for a year. And it's a problem. It's a problem. It's a great, legislatively, it's great, but practically it's very difficult. Because how can you tell somebody's truly in fear when it's, mental abuse or what they call coercive control, or is it just the relationship? Are they just simply terminating a relationship and going through? And it's not easy. It's not like you say, we're all done. Okay, have a nice day.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some bumps, and the communication usually isn't always the greatest, right? And so
usually that's a pattern that's been going on for a long time. It's not getting better because you decided that this is the day.
Yeah, and so you go through it, and at the end of it, now these people say, I'm filing a civil protection order prior to the divorce. And they file the civil protection order. Now you've been removed from the home.
Oh, geez.
Now you've been removed from your children's lives. And so depending on the commissioner or whoever hears it, sometimes they put in some parenting time, sometimes they don't. And so then you have to create another supplemental proceeding of the divorce, or even to establish a parenting plan and establish your parenting rights. And you also have to figure out, where am I going to live?
Yeah.
And so we circle back to the housing market. What do you do then?
Yes.
This is not a long process. This is, you show up at my house as a third party or a sheriff, and you say, you've been served, you need to leave the location. And they give you 15 minutes to get your stuff, and guess what?
Where are you going?
You got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you also have, the courts don't give you more time, generally, because they tell you to get a civil standby. And the police, as we know, are so busy, the last thing they want to do is,
they have plenty of time to do this.
Yeah, babysit people to get their stuff out of your house. So it becomes this huge issue, and it puts even more stress on the housing market. I mean, to the point where it is, with the rates that they are, it makes it so difficult for people, because some people take advantage of it. We've had cases where we are defending somebody from a civil protection order because they were dating somebody who moved in with them. They have a lease under their name. The other party files a civil protection order. They're served, they're removed from the residence, and yet they're still contractually obligated to pay.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really make sense, but in our political climate as it is, that's the process.
Yeah.
And so those things are very difficult.
That is so messy.
Very messy.
So this is why we need a professional. Don't take instructions on the internet for these very complicated matters.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the best attorneys give you more options, right? It's not necessarily the person who knows everything. There's a lot of attorneys out there that are very intelligent, but they fail to give their clients the options, right? Because you are in charge of your future. And sometimes what I think is in your best interest, you may not think so. I go back to many, many years ago. I had a younger individual who was doing very well and was married, and he wanted to pay spousal support. And I said, you really don't need to. He says, no, I want to. right? I want him said, by under the law, there is no court in Washington that would make you pay this amount. And so but he said, this is what I want to do, and this is what I think is right, and so let's do it. And so it's about giving people options as to what, and then knowing the flip side of that is a lot of attorneys don't like to go to court in the sense of trial, right? I mean, family law attorneys are always in court, but as far as going to trial, they don't like going to trial. Well, one of the most powerful things is understanding how judges look at issues.
Okay.
Because when you go to negotiate, you're negotiating with somebody who's never been in trial or who doesn't go to trial enough to understand how the judges look at things. And judges change.
Yeah.
And understanding that gives you more leverage to say, well, in a lot of times, whether it be a house or a parenting issue, you could say, well, they're only offering me every other weekend. Well, I think every practitioner out there knows that the climate's changed. It's no longer every other weekend for custody. And so we have more leverage going to trial because the offer on the table is not as good as what a judge would do.
Right.
And so, but there are a lot of attorneys that just simply don't know. And they'll, I'm not going to say force their clients, but they will motivate their clients to take the deal simply so they don't have to go to trial. Because trial is tough. It's messy and it's a lot of time.
It's probably more expensive.
It is more expensive, yeah.
So when you're faced with, we could be done sooner if we just sign this piece of paper, or we could try and get you more time, but it will cost more money.
Yep.
It's a tough call to make.
It is tough. And in the real estate side of it, a lot of times the judges are not going to make you sell, right? They're going to award it to one party or the other. But the most difficult cases out there are not the ones with tons of money and businesses and houses. It's the ones that are what I consider to be the normal family, right? We have a couple kids, we're married, we make okay money, but we don't make enough money.
Right.
And we live comfortably, but we don't live where we have an abundance. And so, you know, in the real estate world is, what do you do then? Because I can give a house to one party, but they can't afford it.
They can't afford the mortgage. We can't refinance and get one person off, because then that raises their interest rate and doubles their mortgage. So it's all messy. The whole process is messy.
And all that's left to happen is to talk to people like you and talk to lenders.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, people fail to utilize their resources in the community.
So lawyer, lender, real estate agent.
100%.
Whole team.
100%. It's because you have to have options. And people think, oh, I'm only going to talk to one person. Look, I tell everybody that does a consultation with me, I tell them to talk to 3 people.
Yes.
Right? Talk to 3 people.
Talk to 3.
Find the voice that matches your vision.
I totally agree.
And then from there, you know, take the step forward. It may not end up being the right person, but at least you know you've talked to somebody and you start to understand what the professionals in that area are kind of pushing you towards.
Especially if you've heard the same info 3 times, then it's probably true.
Yeah, well,
if you've got 3 different stories, then align with one that fits your goals. But you know, if 3 real estate agents tell you this is the value of your house, it is.
Yeah,
You've
absolutely.
got to believe us.
Absolutely. And you know, I would like to hear your thoughts on, when you talk about value of the home.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on the what represents a true value of a home from your lens, whether it be an appraisal, or a market analysis, or a Zillow online.
Oh, yeah, you want to go there?
I don't know if you want to call it market analysis, but you know, but what represents in your eyes, in your profession, a true value of a home?
I think it is still the market analysis that a real estate agent does, because when the appraiser comes in, they're looking at what is the value to the lender. What does the lender need to have protected? What is the lender's responsibility if anything happens to this house? Comparative sales. Okay, they're looking at that, but they're also not looking at what if it sold tomorrow or 2 months from now. They're looking at what sold last week. And the real estate market around here has had a few significant shifts in the last couple of years, where it was cold one day and hot the next, and then it was hot and then it went cold overnight. And so we're looking at the day-to-day, oh my gosh, no pending sales. What just happened? You know, and we're looking at, what do you mean more than 10 days on market?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And now we're looking at 180. Oh, okay, where the appraisers do look at that, but they're not in the moment, in the day-to-day, and their primary concern is protecting the lender. My primary concern is I have to give someone an a good average expectation. And I will hedge that with here's top dollar, here's bottom, and we're hoping for that right in between. We're hoping for if the market stays stable, if nothing changes, this is what I can tell you to expect.
And I agree 100% with you. And it's wild because most courts won't accept the market analysis. They'll accept the appraisal.
Okay.
And I've had judges state that the market analysis does not qualify, right?
Yeah.
It needs to be a certified appraisal. And I always chuckle because I think, a judge, they do their best, right? I mean, it's what's fair and equitable. What's fair and equitable to you may not be fair and equitable to me, may not be fair and equitable to the next person. But everybody has their point of view. And so to me, it's taking all the information you have, and then it's a ballpark figure because I'm a big believer that a house isn't worth anything except for on the day you buy it and the day you sell it.
Absolutely. It's all imaginary money because there are homes that have been on the market for 200 days. What they were worth in October of last year is not what they're worth today.
Absolutely.
And that's just because the buyers have spoken. The buyers have decided, we don't want to buy right now.
Yeah,
and that
absolutely.
has told all the sellers, oh, well, where are you going to buy? If you're not going to buy at this price, will you buy at this price? Or maybe you'll buy at this price. And some of them have gone all the way to the bottom and said, well, maybe we don't want to sell.
Yeah.
It's all imaginary money.
Yeah, I agree. But I think that's where your worth comes in because you can get a lot of value out of a very strong real estate professional because at least in our realm when going through a divorce, one of the things that I try to advise my clients is you need to talk to somebody who understands the market, not just where the market is today, but what are the trends, because you can make a couple $100,000, and I know that sounds crazy, but you can make at least tens of thousands of dollars on your transaction just understanding the swing of the market. And you may take a house what it seems to be overpriced, right? The other side says, oh no, it's worth $100,000 more than it is, or $50,000 more. But you actually know, and it's on an appraisal, you know that actually I could make a couple adjustments in my house, and we could paint it and clean it up, and it's going to provide this value. And so in 2 years, I'll be able to sell it at a profit.
Even just make one more bedroom.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's what it is. Knock down a wall and make that bedroom, and now it's a real bedroom and not just a flex space.
Yeah.
And the appraiser will say, oh my gosh, they've added another bedroom.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the value comes into having people like you inform them that, yes, while the appraisal comes in at 800,000, the market says you could sell this for 1 to 1.2 million. And so when you go into mediation and you're trying to figure out, there's a lot of attorneys that like to count spoons. So they put in vehicle, debt, and none of it matters, right? I mean, you got a vehicle. Can you make the payment?
Yeah.
But they try to balance it out so it makes them feel good and that they have a 50-50 split or a 60-40 split. The real question, is the same with investments, right? What's the rate of return? What's the taxes on them? That a lot of attorneys don't look at is what can we do with the house? Or what can we do with the commercial property in the future? And so, my take has always been lose first, win later, right? And so when the short-term loss, you're in the middle of a storm, right? Eat it now because you're used to it. And then, in a year, you'll be getting back on your feet and you'll see the traction, and hopefully we put you in a position where you're taking off. And so your real estate that you have now is no longer the 800,000. It's actually, if you want to sell it, you'll make a couple $100,000 or, and so you're in a better position, and all the stuff that you thought you gave up, you actually got back plus more.
That's perfect. Does it make sense if both parties know divorce is on the table, it's coming up? Does it ever make sense in your eyes to sell the house first?
Absolutely.
And then be able to divide the assets, especially if we're not tied to a location. Kids got to be on board, hobbies, work, all these things that affect where you live. Is that ever beneficial?
It is. It can be very helpful for a family. It can be helpful because, one, I find those parties are on the same page.
Okay.
Because you've created, a house is a huge thing, in your life. And so you've come to an agreement on one of the largest assets that you have. The other assets, right? usually are liquid, some sort of retirement, and so you don't have to worry about them, right? I mean, whether you file some paperwork that says you get a little bit more of this one, or that's not an issue. With a house, where are you living? The flip side of that is when you sell and you have children, the parties need to have an understanding of where people are going to live.
Yes.
Because that's going to affect how they divide the time between the children. And the unfortunate part is, in this market, is we have situations where people they do that, but they don't think about the next step.
Yeah.
Right? They haven't talked to a real estate professional. They haven't talked to their attorneys about where am I going to go. And so then you say, well, what am I going to do with the kids? And I've had people tell me that, I said, what type of parenting plan do you want? Well, I want to have 50-50 with my kids. I think we both should share in their lives. I think that's great. I said, okay, so where are you living? Well, I'm going to live in Tacoma. I said, well, where's the other party going to live? Well, I think they're going to be up in Whidbey Island.
Right.
And I'm like, that's great. Well, how are we going to get them to school?
Right.
And it doesn't dawn on them.
Yes.
Because everybody's mentality is, we're all still living in the same house. This will be easy.
Yeah.
And so that's the other thing about with divorce, 90-day waiting period. I usually think 6 months is usually a great time period because you need to have whatever orders, like arrangements that you have, you want to put those into play while you're still able to make adjustments.
Okay.
Once you finalize a parenting plan or, hey, this is what we're going to do with the house, that's it.
Yeah.
Right? It's very tough to come back. I mean, the court doesn't have enough time to address all the people that need help now.
Right.
They don't want to do it again.
Yeah.
And so your chances of opening it up again are slim unless you have an agreement. And so getting an agreement and then allowing it to play out to see if it's actually practical. I mean,
That's
our job's
a really good idea.
Yeah, our job's to write everything down as instructions on a piece of paper. But sometimes they don't actually work out in real life.
Yeah.
And so while we try our best, it's like, well, you guys are going to agree on a real estate professional to sell this house. Well, then you find out they can't agree.
Yes.
And then there's nothing written on what you do next.
Yeah.
And so then it just becomes a bigger issue. And so, having, dealing with divorcees really is important that you understand they're going to be extra emotional and that you really come into it as a neutral without emotion. And, I've dealt with a few professionals who are unprofessional, and you simply ask questions as an attorney and they get very defensive because they think we're attacking.
Oh dear.
But we're on the same team because the more money that you get, the more money our clients get. And so it's a process that I think some real estate professionals are intimidated by because the attorneys and the courts involved,
Right.
and they don't want to be involved in that. And you have a little hostility, and you start to say, the worst thing you can do as a real estate professional is become hostile.
Yes.
Because it's only going to drive more conflict.
Yeah.
So
It's not helping anybody.
no,
It's turning up the temperature.
Yeah.
That's terrible. Is there any last tidbits on this topic that we should end on?
I think the best thing to do is if you're going through a divorce and you know that it's not going to pencil, you're going to have to sell the house, you've talked to a real estate professional, you've talked to lenders, find one that you feel their voice, right? That you relate to, because that's going to help, and they communicate, right? And they communicate.
Highly communicative.
Because that's going to transition you through the divorce, and it's going to smooth out some of the largest issues that you can actually have through the divorce process. And it's going to help you move on to the next stage of your life, in the next chapter.
Love it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So if you've enjoyed listening to that, you can find Whalley Law almost everywhere on social media, and we'll put their contact information in the show notes. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Jeff Whalley. He was so great, and we could have gone so many more directions, but we did keep it to the topic of divorce. There was a lot more going on than what I thought. So I hope you heard some tidbits, and I hope you heard some hope that if this is your situation, there are many ways forward, and there are many people here on your side to help you and really to stay neutral and help both parties get to the other side. This is an opportunity to reinvent yourself, an opportunity to heal and become who you were really meant to be. So if you are thinking that you might be in this situation, please reach out to me or to Whalley Law and their team there. They have many family law lawyers who are all bringing a lot of heart and neutrality, which is very important in their position. You can find all of our contact information below in the show notes. And as always, let's get you home.